Welcome to VidZet. I'm Dr. Ted Noel. The horrific events of Las Vegas point out to us again that there is evil in the heart of men. And as Donald Trump pointed out, this is an act of pure evil. But in order for there to be evil, there must be a moral law. And for there to be a moral law, there must be a moral lawgiver. That moral lawgiver is God. But the left, with its rejection of God and his authority, has made it clear that they are not interested in moral law. Therefore, they have no right to speak of morals. Let us remember that as we go forward. Now, let us look at the facts on the ground. This particular event involved a massive amount of preparation. We don't know why, but the shooter used a number of weapons, and they all appear to be something that looks about like this. This is my personal AR-15. Now, as you look at it, it looks evil. It's got this big military forend on it. It's got a flash hider on the end of the muzzle. It has this big 30-round magazine and a pistol grip and a collapsible stock. I mean, it'll slide out. It looks mean and nasty. But guess what? It's not as deadly as my hunting rifle. This is a .308 caliber bolt-action hunting rifle. Now, the AR-15 fires a .223. That's the standard military round, very effective against people. My hunting rifle fires a .308. Now, there is an AR pattern rifle, and he had them. It's called the AR-10, which fires this larger bullet, which is more effective downrange. And he used it. That's why you have two different sounds of the shooting. But my AR rifle fires one shot. Every time I pull the trigger, it fires once. Same thing with my bolt action. Bolt action, I have to cycle the bolt to get a new one in. If I look at pistols, a semi-automatic pistol will fire, and it uses the action of firing to load another bullet. I still have to pull the trigger another time to get a second shot. Same thing with an AR pattern rifle. They're semi-automatic. They are not automatic rifles. And what this shooter did was he used a thing called a bump stock, which is nothing more than a piece of plastic molded in a shape that when the gun fires, it allows the gun to recoil in a way where it goes away from the trigger, then it bounces back against the trigger finger, causing you to pull the trigger multiple times without ever moving your finger. It's not technically an automatic rifle. The question that comes to mind really is, how effective should this have been? Let's look at what the Army does. The Army trains its recruits to fire semi-automatic. One shot, one pull. That is, what you're trying to do is to put accurate fire on a target. If you've got the enemy out there, you want to hit him. You don't want to scare him, you want to hit him. The only time you're allowed to use fully automatic fire is when you're doing field of fire. That's shots in the area, trying to keep the other guy, keep his head down so you can do something, move out of the way, whatever. In Las Vegas, this guy was using fully automatic or nearly fully automatic fire. Every time he fired, the gun moved. It moved, it moved, it moved, it moved with every shot. And guess what? His bump stock made it move more because of its sloppy fit. And as a result, he had 59 dead, including himself. He killed 58 people out there in that field and wounded over 500. Every time the gun moved, it got somebody in the arm or the leg, and it might have bounced over to the next guy. If he had used semi-automatic aimed fire, in the time he spent, he probably could have killed twice as many people, because he, instead of having 10 or 12 shots with one dead, he might easily have had 2 shots with one dead. I mean, we should be grateful he went automatic instead of just bang, bang, where people wouldn't have even realized there was a lot going on. He might have picked off 10 or 15 people before the alarm started to be raised. That's not to belittle the fact that he killed a lot of people. Please don't get me wrong there. But the fact is, he used a less effective method. And the only reason it was effective at all is that you had a stadium that was jam-packed with people. He couldn't miss hitting someone. It's just a question of whether he hit them in a spot that would kill them or not. So let's go back and look at it. What is it that we could do that would make life better? What are those common sense rules? I mean, could we eliminate semi-automatics? Some people want to do it. It won't make any difference. As a matter of fact, they want to get rid of guns, but we now know from research that over 20 years, we have had a 56% increase in guns in private hands per capita. And we have a 49% reduction in homicide. Let me say that again. We add half again as many guns, we cut the number of murders in half. That would say, if we had a scientist, he'd look at that and say, we need more guns. If we had more guns, we'd have less crime. Well, the fact is, that's exactly what happens. The more guns you have, the less crime. And that's the title of Professor John Lott's book, which he wrote after researching this at length. And see, the problem is that what the left forgets is that we use guns to protect life. There are good studies that show that we use them almost 2 million times a year, most of the time without ever firing a shot. But let's look at their recommendations. Let's do universal background checks. Every gun sold at a store requires that federal firearms license holder to do a background check. He uses what's called the National Instant Check System. I pay a fee, I wait, and after a while, it comes back with an answer that tells me whether I'm okay to buy a gun or not. If I'm not okay, I lose the fee. I might even get arrested. Every sale at a gun store. The only other way I can get a gun is to buy it from my neighbor. And I'll hand him money and he hands me the gun. That's a real minority of sales. Or let's say I wanted a child to have one, my adult child, and so I would give them a gun I own. Those are the only exceptions. And in mass murders in the United States, there's been exactly one case where the guns didn't come through a federal firearms license holder, and that's Sandy Hook, where the perpetrator killed his grandmother, then broke into her safe and took her guns and used them to kill all of those kids. Wouldn't help. Close the gun show loophole. Guess what? All of the gun sales at gun shows are done by dealers, basically. And those dealers have to use the NICS. The rare exception, again, is the single private sale from one person to one other. And those guns, as we pointed out, aren't used in crime. Block gun purchases on the internet. Doesn't happen. Why? The gun purchase on the internet, I buy it from somebody else. He has to ship it to a license holder who then does the NICS check. And if I don't pass the NICS check, I can't get the gun. So everything is already done. Those checks are already there. Let's increase waiting periods. We're going to reduce crimes of passion. Actually, what that does is it increases crimes of passion. We have a number of women who have died waiting to get a gun when their violent ex-husband or ex-boyfriend broke down a door and came in and killed them. I'm sorry, it's a bad idea, and it's been studied. As a matter of fact, all of these so-called common sense measures, and you can run through a bunch more, have been studied. And we now find, courtesy of the Washington Post of all places, when an exhaustive study is done looking at all of these supposed ways to fix gun crime, all of them fail. None of them work. The best way to fix gun crime is to have guns in the hands of the law-abiding citizen. They are used over 2 million times a year to thwart crime, most of the time without a shot being fired. Remember, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away. And that's why I protect my family with Glock. I'm Dr. Ted Noel. Thanks for watching.